My name is Ethan Parker, and up until a few days ago, I thought my life in the small town of Willow Creek, Colorado was pretty great. At 26 years old, I had a decent job as a software developer, allowing me to afford a cozy two-bedroom home with my wife Amanda. She's 24 and works as a graphic designer, smart, beautiful, and my whole world. Or at least, that's what I believed until last Tuesday. I'll never forget that gut-wrenching moment when everything came crashing down around me. Amanda was on the phone with her best friend Jen, like she does every week to catch up. I could hear their muffled voices from the kitchen as I was cleaning up after dinner. Then, clear as day, I heard Amanda say the most soul-crushing words. "I know, but he was kind of my last resort at the time. I guess I just settled for Ethan." It was like the whole room started spinning. My heart pounded in my ears as I struggled to breathe. Settled. Last resort. I wanted to burst through the door and demand an explanation right then and there. But I was paralyzed, rooted to that linoleum floor. How could the love of my life, the woman I built a home and future with, say that about me, about us? Doubt and insecurity flooded my mind. Was our entire relationship a lie? Did she really love me at all, or was I just convenient? I stumbled to the couch, dizzy from the chaos swirling inside me. Grabbing my laptop, I frantically typed out the whole situation, begging Reddit for advice, for perspectives, for anything that could make sense of this. Because in that moment, nothing made sense anymore. The responses poured in, some saying to confront her, others urging caution. A few reacted like I felt, utterly blindsided and heartbroken by such an unthinkably cruel revelation from a spouse. I read every reply, analyzing it from every angle, but kept coming back to that one eviscerating line. It looped endlessly in my head, drowning out all other thoughts. I don't know how long I sat there, motivation and energy drained from me. I barely slept, just staring at the ceiling, replaying her words over and over until the sun peeked through the curtains. How could I face Amanda after this? Where did we go from here? I had to talk to her, but fear paralyzed me. Fear of the truth and fear of losing everything, this life we built together. So I put on a brave face and went to work like any other day, hoping some space would clear my head. But no matter how much code I wrote, her voice just kept echoing louder. I made it through that first day of work in a total daze. Lines of code blurred together as my mind kept spiraling back to Amanda's confession. I felt numb, yet consumed by hurt, confusion, and doubt all at once. When I got home that evening, the house was empty. A small mercy, I thought, not having to face her just yet. I fired up my laptop and pulled up that Reddit post from the night before. Hundreds of new comments had piled up from strangers trying to make sense of my situation. Some people understood the betrayal I felt. They emphasized how traumatic it can be to have the foundations of your marriage shaken like that. A few called Amanda selfish and manipulative for staying with someone she didn't truly love. I didn't want to make her into a villain, but those words stung. Most, however, urged me not to jump to conclusions without hearing her side first. Maybe she misspoke or was just venting to her friend out of temporary frustration. People said dumb things sometimes without meaning them. I wanted so badly to believe that explanation. One comment stuck out. The only way to get clarity is to rip off the Band-Aid and confront her about it directly. Letting it fester will only breed more resentment and assumptions. If you still love this woman, you owe it to yourself and your marriage to have that hard conversation. I read that over and over, letting it soak in. As much as I wanted to bury this and pretend it never happened, they were right. We couldn't move forward with this lingering doubt hanging over us. Amanda and I had built an entire life together, Didn't that earn me some honest answers at least? With a surge of adrenaline, I typed out a new post. Update: I'm going to confront my wife about this situation tonight. Wish me luck. I figured putting it out there would force me to follow through. No more avoiding the inevitable. The rest of that evening inched by at an agonizing pace. Amanda still wasn't home by the time I finished making a stir-fry dinner for one. She's probably out venting with Jen again about what a last resort her husband is, I caught myself thinking bitterly. I tried distracting myself by cleaning the house from top to bottom, blasting music to drown out the deafening silence mocking me everywhere I turned. Some of our framed photos made me pause. Did the radiant smiles we shared in those moments even mean anything to her? Finally, a little after 9 p.m., Amanda came through the door lugging her shoulder bag. I could feel my heart rate spike in anticipation. It was now or never. As soon as Amanda stepped through that front door, I knew I had to seize the moment before my nerves got the better of me. She seemed a little startled when I immediately spoke up. "Hey, can we talk for a sec?" I asked, my voice coming out more shaky than I intended. Amanda furrowed her brow, but replied, "Yeah, of course. Is everything okay?" I drew in a deep breath, steadying myself. "Just rip off the band-aid, Ethan. Actually, no, everything is not okay between us right now." She looked taken aback, setting her bag down by the couch. "What are you talking about? What's going on?" This was it. No turning back now. "I overheard what you said on the phone to Jen the other day," I said carefully, "about how you settled for me, that I was your last resort." Amanda's eyes went wide, her face flushing red. You heard that?" "Yeah, I heard it clear as day," I stated, feeling my own frustration levels rising. "So, was it true? Did you really just settle for me after everything we've been through together?" She opened her mouth to respond but seemed to have no words at first. Running a hand through her hair, she finally replied, "Ethan, I didn't mean anything by that, really. I was just venting to Jen about some things. Venting that your husband was a last resort. That's a pretty messed up thing to vent about, Amanda." I shot back, unable to hide the hurt in my voice. "You're taking it way too literally," she shouted back, throwing her hands up. "We all say stupid crap to our friends sometimes when we're frustrated. It doesn't actually mean anything." I shook my head vehemently. How am I supposed to believe that? Those words, they cut me to the core, Amanda. They make me question everything. Our marriage, your love for me, all of it. Do you have any idea what that feels like?" Amanda seemed to deflate a little, dropping her defensiveness. In a quieter voice, she said, "I'm sorry you overheard that, babe. You know I love you with all my heart. I never meant to make you feel that way." But her words rang hollow after what I'd heard. "Then why did you say it at all? If I really am your one and only, that kind of thing shouldn't even enter your mind, right?" She opened her mouth again, but seemed to think better of it, snapping it shut. An uncomfortable silence hung in the air, thick with tension and unspoken words. Finally, Amanda spoke up again. "Ethan, I don't know what to say except that I'm sorry. Honestly, I never wanted to hurt you like this." "Well, you did hurt me," I stated bluntly, "more than you'll probably ever understand. I need some space to process this." Without another word, I brushed past her and left the house, getting into my car. I didn't have a destination in mind. I just needed to get away, to escape that unbearable tension, if only for a little while. As I drove aimlessly, fresh tears blurred my vision. How could someone who claimed to love me say something so devastating? And why did a part of me now suspect she was just telling her friend the harsh truth, that I really was a last-ditch option for her? My mind cycled through all the possibilities as the sun slipped below the horizon, leaving me utterly alone with my kaleidoscope of warring emotions. I'm not sure how long I aimlessly drove around for after leaving the house that night. Hours probably, as the light drizzle turned to a steady downpour thrumming against the car windows. My mind raced just as frantically as the windshield wipers, swiping back and forth. Amanda's words ricocheted through my skull on an endless loop. I was just venting. You're taking it too literally. Except how else was I supposed to take the phrase, "he was my last resort"? That's not some random slip of the tongue. That's an earth-shattering admission about the reality of our relationship. Eventually, I found myself pulling up to a dingy motel on the outskirts of town. I could barely stand the thought of going home and facing whatever that tension-filled silence would be with Amanda. Grabbing an overnight bag from the trunk, I checked in under my middle name. Call it an abundance of embarrassment, not wanting to make small talk about why a local husband needed a room for the night. My head throbbed as I collapsed onto the squeaky mattress, palming the cool remote and half watching some old sitcom rerun to soften the relentless roar of my thoughts. I kept going back over all the lingering signs in our marriage, the occasional bickering, periods of disconnection, Amanda's increasing girls' nights with Jen. Had I just been deluding myself this whole time that we were a happy, loving couple building a future together? The next day, I called in sick, desperate for more time and space to process everything. But avoidance can only last so long before you're forced to face reality again. I needed an outside perspective, from someone removed from the tangled complexities of mine and Amanda's relationship. Trolling the internet, I found a couples counselor in town that had decent reviews. Making the call to schedule the appointment filled me with a sort of resigned determination. "Hi, I'd like to schedule a session for just myself, please, for personal issues within my marriage." The kind-voiced receptionist responded cheerily, "Absolutely, sir. Did you have a day or time that works best for you? Honestly, I'll take whatever's available soonest. This is pretty urgent." She managed to get me in for later that afternoon, which I gratefully accepted. At least it was a step in some direction, any direction other than this suffocating, unanswered limbo I currently existed in. A few hours later, I gingerly pushed through the wooden door of the counselor's office, wringing my clammy hands. I'd never done anything like this before in my life, but I suppose that was the whole point, to get an objective voice of reason to help understand the chaos Amanda's comments had unleashed. The counselor, Dr. Simons, was an affable gray-haired woman who immediately put me at ease with her warm smile and calming presence. "Well, Ethan, why don't you start by telling me what brought you in today?" she asked once we were settled into comfy armchairs. I drew a deep breath, then slowly unspooled the entire tangled saga, from overhearing that fateful phone conversation, to the heated confrontation, to my current separation and whirlwind of self-doubt. Dr. Simons listened patiently, nodding along and jotting down some brief notes. When I finished, she arched an eyebrow and replied, "I can certainly understand why you're feeling so shaken and betrayed right now. Having the foundation of your marriage called into question like that, it's unimaginably painful." I nodded wearily. "Exactly, and I don't know if I can just take her word for it that she misspoke or whatever. Those comments came from somewhere deep down, you know." "You're not wrong," Dr. Simons affirmed. "Comments like that, especially from one spouse, tend to hint at larger unresolved issues under the surface. Have you two had any problems or areas of disconnection building up recently?" Honestly evaluating our relationship, I admitted, "Well, yeah, probably. We've been bickering over little things more. Date nights got deprioritized. Just growing apart, I guess, without really realizing it." She made another note, then looked me in the eye. From what you've told me so far, it seems like Amanda may have some deep insecurities she's not properly dealing with. Perhaps she does feel some societal pressures or self-imposed expectations, and that phone call was an immature way of venting those feelings. But that doesn't excuse saying such awful things about me, right? I interjected. About our whole marriage. Dr. Simons shook her head. Not at all. What she said showed an immense lack of respect and consideration for your feelings as her partner. My advice would be to continue this separation for now and spend some time in individual counseling too. My brow furrowed. Separate counseling. I was hoping you could, I dunno, fix this or something. She gave me a sadly amused look. I'm afraid I don't have any magic solutions, Ethan. But what I can do is provide you the tools and guidance to work through this betrayal trauma at your own pace. Unpack why it triggered such an intense response, address any self-esteem issues, and determine if and how you want to repair things with Amanda. The idea of digging that deep into myself felt equally terrifying and necessary. Over the next few weeks, I tried to take Dr. Simon's advice to heart. As painful as it was, I committed to working through this betrayal trauma at my own pace through solo counseling sessions. Each appointment felt like doing open-heart surgery on my psyche, probing the deepest insecurities and fears that Amanda's comments had unleashed. Why do you think those particular words caused such a visceral reaction in you? Dr. Simons asked during one session, her voice a calm brook amidst my storm of raw emotions. I struggled to put the tangle of feelings into words at first. Finally, I managed. It's like my whole identity as a husband and partner got invalidated in an instant. You know, suddenly I was questioning every aspect of my relationship. Had she been lying to me this whole time? The doctor nodded slowly. Those are extremely destabilizing emotions to grapple with. It sounds like Amanda's comments directly contradicted your core belief about your marriage. Sniffing hard, I nodded jerkily. Exactly. I thought we were this totally united front, building a life together based on love and commitment. To find out she secretly regretted it or settled for me, I trailed off, blinking back tears. Feelings of deep rejection and inadequacy then, Dr. Simons stated, which are very normal reactions when such foundational beliefs get shaken like that. Our key work will be rebuilding your self-worth from the inside out. The very notion seemed impossible at first. My self-esteem and confidence were in total freefall after being gutted by the person I trusted most. I figured Amanda and I were inevitably doomed based on her apparent lack of fulfillment in our relationship. But Dr. Simons was careful to reiterate, her insensitive comments reflect her own unresolved issues, not your self-worth as a human being. Don't let her moment of immaturity cause you to indict yourself or descend into self-loathing. Her reassuring words didn't cure the hurt overnight, but they gradually reoriented my mindset over the next couple months. Through arduous self-work, journaling, awkward role-playing exercises, revisiting old hobbies that made me feel purposeful, I started regaining some self-belief. Crucially, I also cut off communication with Amanda during this period. As much as I still loved her, I needed to prioritize undistracted inner healing before even considering how to address the marital problems between us, if that was even possible anymore. Dr. Simons affirmed my decision. Going no contact is a powerful act of self-protection, Ethan. It creates the emotional space to reflect, grieve, and ultimately decide how you want to move forward from this, not react based on her behaviors and choices. With my wife out of the picture for now, I leaned heavily on my support network of longtime friends and family members. Their endless words of affirmation and listening ears were essential lifelines. My buddy Steve, who'd been happily married for years, pulled me aside one night as we reassembled after dinner at a sports bar. "Look, man, I just want you to know your worth isn't defined by one person's shitty actions, all right?" he stated sternly. "Amanda saying that garbage, that's on her, not you. You're one of the most caring, stand-up guys I know who any woman would be lucky to have." I felt my eyes well up at his forceful words, giving him a fierce hug. "Thanks, man. I really needed to hear that." Though the journey was brutally difficult, something slowly rekindled inside me, a quiet confidence, a stubborn self-belief that I was a fundamentally good person who didn't deserve such hurtful rejection, no matter Amanda's personal misgivings. And from that newly forged resilience finally emerged clarity. It was time to make a huge decision about the future of my marriage. After months of inner turmoil and intensive self-work, the day finally came when I felt ready to decide the future of my marriage. I made one last appointment with Dr. Simons to get her perspective before taking any irreversible steps. "I've really been examining what Amanda said from every angle," I began, rubbing my clammy palms on my jeans. "And I think I've realized that even if she misspoke or was just venting temporary frustrations, that mind space existed for her at some point, you know." Dr. Simons nodded slowly, meaning her words came from a place of underlying truth, whether conscious or subconscious. "Exactly," I affirmed with a tight nod. "And I don't know if I can just unring that bell. Even if we repaired the surface levels of our relationship, I'd always wonder if she was still harboring those same unmet desires or regrets." The counselor considered my words carefully. "That's an extremely valid concern. The trauma of betrayal can create permanent cracks in a couple's foundation of trust and commitment. Some find it possible to rebuild from that rubble, while others don't." I drew in a weighted breath. Right. And as much as I still care deeply for Amanda, I'm just not sure I have it in me to constantly doubt myself or live in suspicion. Not after the personal growth I've done to finally regain self-worth. A faint smile played across Dr. Simon's lips. "It sounds like you've discovered an incredibly powerful form of self-love, Ethan, putting your own emotional well-being first. That's immensely brave." Her affirmation was profoundly validating after the agonizing deliberations of the past several months. In that moment, I knew what I had to do, as heart-wrenching as it felt. "I'm going to ask Amanda for a divorce," I stated resolutely. "Separating for good is the healthiest path forward for both of us." The words hung in the air, heavy with finality yet ringing with clarity. This was the right choice, one born not from rash anger or hurt, but from a deep reserve of hard-won self-respect. Later that evening, I texted Amanda asking if we could meet up at a quiet cafe to talk. She must have detected the somber tone, because she immediately replied, "Of course, I'll be there." We barely spoke when we arrived except for some terse pleasantries. The weighty tension between us was palpable. Finally, after ordering our drinks, Amanda looked up at me with rueful eyes. "I'm guessing this is it, huh? The big talk we've been putting off." Exhaling slowly, I gave a slight nod. Yeah, it really is." Amanda opened her mouth as if to respond, then seemed to think better of it. She just nodded solemnly and motioned for me to continue. The words came tumbling out with arduous anguish. "Look, Amanda, after everything that's happened and all the soul-searching I've done, I don't think I can keep doing this. Living in constant doubt over whether you'll wake up one day wishing you'd never settled for me. That's not a marriage, that's emotional purgatory." To her credit, Amanda didn't get defensive or make excuses. She just sat there woodenly, tension pooling in her jaw as she blinked back budding tears. "I still care about you deeply and want nothing but the best," I continued, my voice growing husky with emotion. but I've realized that in order to live authentically, I have to walk away and let us both seek fulfillment elsewhere, even if that thought utterly breaks my heart." Amanda dropped her head, a tear escaping down her cheek. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. You're right. You don't deserve the lifelong doubt and turmoil I've put you through with my immaturity." She sniffed hard, composing herself. "If this is what you need to heal and find peace, then I understand. Truly." My own vision blurred with tears, but I held them back, steadying my shaking breaths. "Thank you for seeing it that way, for understanding why this is." I trailed off, the finality of divorce still stinging to voice. Amanda reached across the table and gave my hand a lingering, mournful squeeze, a solemn farewell in itself. I held her soft palm for a beat, memories and might-have-beens flashing vividly behind my eyes. Then, with one final steadying inhalation, I slowly pulled my hand back and folded it deliberately in my lap. With that simple motion, I somehow knew I'd be okay. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. There was a long road of grieving and rebuilding yet ahead, but I'd walk it with my head held high, free from the shackles of inadequacy and a love unreciprocated. The first step into my liberated life began with those 4 words Amanda and I never uttered, but understood with a shared finality: "Let's get divorced, then." Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, give us a like, share our story, and I'll see you all again very soon.